Hey there and welcome to No Recipe Required. I'm Dave, and tonight I've got a what I think is a pretty exciting pork dish for you. This one is a stuffed pork tenderloin. I'm going to use some mushrooms, some spinach, a little bit of goat cheese I think is in there to actually stuff the pork tenderloin. We'll pound it out flat, roll it up. When we slice it, it makes a very, very cool presentation. My friends are always impressed, and frankly it's not all that hard to make. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, we're going to go ahead and do our stuffing for our pork tenderloin. Now the beauty of a stuffing like this, or one of the nice things, is that you can do it well in advance. I'm actually probably 4 hours away from dinner, but I can easily just go ahead and make the stuffing now and put it in the fridge until I'm ready for it. Here I've just got maybe a cup and a half, 2 cups of chopped mushrooms in a hot pan with some olive oil. Added some salt, added some pepper. I'm just going to saute these down. You can see how much they reduced in size. And there I just added a little bit of dry thyme. If you have fresh thyme, that would be awesome. I'm just going to let this go for probably 2 minutes or so. And then I'm going to remove the mushrooms. I just pulled my mushrooms out of the pan. And I'm going to add in, call it 2.5 to 3 cups of loose baby spinach. And the spinach, it's going to really cook down as it heats up. Hit it with just a touch of salt there, and it's going to kind of melt away, like I said, really quickly. And once it's done, I'm just going to remove it. Any water that comes out of the spinach, we're just going to drain off. And then I'm going to take it, just chop it up finely, and we'll add it to the mushrooms that we just cooked off. And then we're going to add this right into our mushrooms, which are right here. Put that in. And then we mix it up. Let me grab a spoon. And this is the base of our stuffing. I am going to add about 2 tablespoons of goat cheese. And that just kind of, it softens up and it helps everything kind of stick together a little bit. The way I'm going to do it is to butterfly the tenderloin. And so if there's a nice side, this is the nice side, this is the less nice side. Flip it up so that you're on the less nice side. And then we're going to make a few cuts here. First cut is not quite center of the meat. It's just off center to the outside. And I'm going to go about 3/4 of the way down, being careful not to cut all the way through. And that's going to open up the meat there and create kind of like a V or a U cut. Now I want to open up this other side and essentially kind of create a book. So we're going to go in like that and open it up. Again, not going all the way through, just going kind of 3/4 of the way through, and just peel that apart. You can make little tiny cuts like this, and the meat will start to open up like that for you. Just pull it apart as you do it. Again, making sure that you don't cut all the way through. And then we're going to do one more cut here. It kind of depends, the number of cuts depends a little bit on the thickness of the pork. This one, I think we're going to do one more cut kind of right there. And again, as you think about it, it's just constantly opening up the meat to get a flat, level piece. Okay, so I've got my pork pounded out. You can do this again hours ahead of time. What we're gonna do now is really just flip it around, lay the stuffing down, roll it up. Okay, so I've got my tenderloin pounded out. We're gonna stuff it now. Now the first thing I do, I season the inside because we've got the opportunity to season the inside. We love nicely seasoned food. Salt and pepper on both. Obviously you could use other spices. For this dish, just plain salt and pepper is all you need. That's all I'm going to use most of the time. And this is the stuffing that we have been refrigerating, just to take some of that edge off. It gets easier, I think, the cooler it gets. So, and again, you can do this hours ahead of time. So absolutely no problem if you just want to let it sit and cool down to fridge temp. And then you lay it down. I'm going to lay it about a quarter of an inch thick, almost halfway, or a little bit more than halfway across the tenderloin there. Now, if you end up with a little bit extra, you end up with a little bit extra. Not going to kill anything. The other thing I've done is just cut off like 4 or 5 strings, about 9-10 inches long. We're going to use those to tie up our pork here. I've still got the plastic wrap on here. You don't need to keep the plastic wrap, but it can make it easier if you just kind of lift up the edge, and then fold that pork in on itself. And this is why we didn't go all the way across the pork with the stuffing, because you want to make sure you leave enough room there to overlap a little bit at the end and create, that nice seal between the pork and the stuffing. And I like to kind of roll it over until the pork, we're going to lose the our wrapper there, until the pork is sitting on that seam. If you need to kind of stuff in the edges, you can absolutely do that. And just the weight of the pork will keep the seam from opening up. Then take your strings, and you want to tie them. This one is just barely long enough. Tie tightly. I like to tie tightly on the 2 edges, and then in the center, you don't really need to go nearly as tight. Okay, let's go ahead and cook our stuffed pork tenderloin. I've got a pan on the heat, super high heat already. You want to make sure that the pan is nice and hot. And then I've got my tenderloin stuffed, which I've tied. And then I also season the outside now with a good healthy amount of salt and pepper. This is the seam side down, and I want to lay that seam down on the pan first and get it nice and nice and seared off. Okay, we've been going about 3 minutes, 4 minutes. I have not looked at the underside of this, so we don't know how it looks, but I think now's about the time. You don't want to mess with it before now. That's looking pretty good. It could actually go a few minutes longer, another minute longer, but I'm hungry, so I'm going to flip it around. Okay, so I put the pork on its third side, and I'm going to do a bit of an optional step here. I actually want to make a sauce, a pan sauce, with some apple. This is just the apple that I peeled and diced. And for that sauce, I want the apple to be a little bit caramelized and cooked down. So I'm just going to add it to the pan after I've flipped it on that third side. Probably 15 minutes of total cooking time left. I may add just another little drizzle of oil to make sure the apples don't stick. Once we flip it onto the fourth side in about 2 minutes, I'm going to slip the whole thing into a 400-degree oven for about 7 minutes, 5 to 7 minutes. Okay, so I just pulled my pork out of the oven. I can kind of tell doneness because I've done this recipe a few times, and if I feel it, I've got a general sense of how it's done. I like mine just kind of medium well. I think the official word on pork now is medium rare is okay. You don't have to cook it to well done anymore. You do need to let it rest though, so I'm going to pull it off, put it on a plate. I'm going to cover it with foil to keep it warm, and while that's happening, let's make our sauce. I turned up the heat on my pan here, and I'm going to add a shallot minced, garlic minced, and I'm also going to grab a wooden spoon, and I'm going to mix that in. I'm going to let those just kind of soften up a little bit. Okay, let's throw our Pinot in there. This is probably a quarter cup or so, and I'm going to get the heat to a point where it boils up right away. We're going to scrape off all those yummy pork bits and let the wine reduce at least by half. So our wine is reduced down, and we've got that delicious Pinot kind of all concentrated with the apple in there. I've got some chicken stock and some apple juice here, kind of about 50-50. And that's going to lessen the wine flavor a little bit, because otherwise it'd be a little bit too strong. Okay, once our sauce is down, and reduced. I'm just going to add a few tablespoons. That was the last little bit of butter into the sauce. Off the heat. I've got it off now. Stir that butter in, and you're going to get a nice, thick, kind of glossy finish to the sauce. Okay, so with our pork today, I'm actually serving a little bit of carrot puree. We'll go maybe 3 dollops on the plate like that. And then I'm going to serve my pork right on top of those little dollops. We'll go 1, 2, 3. And then finally we've got our sauce, our applesauce. You can just drizzle that kind of all around. And there we've got our stuffed pork. I'll see you next time on No Recipe Required.